Hello, my friends and fellow VEDSies. Remember when voice actors got voice acting parts, like they were actually cast in animated films and things that needed, voice acting? It feels like every new animated film has more and more and more celebrities in them. Amy Poehler is Joy. Will Smith is a spy that gets turned into a pigeon, and also the scary fish. Jack Black is the Kung Fu Panda. Zendaya is Michi. I had to. And I'm not trashing any of those actors or any of those performances or any of those films even. Except Shark Tale, it deserves to be trashed. But think about it. It does seem a little weird that our A-list celebrities are getting all of these voice acting roles, right? Like, this didn't happen for a long time. And voice actors are more popular now than they ever have been. Why aren't they being utilized? Well, to understand that, we need to understand the history of voice acting in animated films. Yes, I'm actually going to do this. See, back in the early days, there just weren't a lot of voice acting roles. Like, if you got lucky, you could get cast as a cartoon character and get a steady gig that way. But even then, it was hard, things were getting double cast, and there just weren't a lot of voice acting roles. You weren't just a voice actor. And while there were lots of people who had successful careers who were doing a little bit of voice acting, the first real celebrity to lend their voice to an animated film, as far as I can tell, was Bing Crosby in The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. That was 1949, and he did voices for the Sleepy Hollow portion of that film. And that's great, that's iconic, but it didn't really change how films were cast. Like, sure, every once in a while you get a famous singer like Peggy Lee to be in your films, but you still found that most of these voice acting roles were going to character actors. Like, if you're a giant Disney nerd, like I am, you know names like Sterling Holloway, Ed Wynn, Eleanor Audley. But they were character actors. They'd show up for 2 or 3 episodes of your sitcom, and they'd play the fun uncle, and then you'd never see them again. And then they'd be in this radio play, and they weren't these huge, major actors. Of course, there were some people who were really famous and who did voice acting as well. Mickey Rooney is the main example of this. He started off doing Oswald the Lucky Rabbit way early in his career. He got super famous, and he came back to voice acting every once in a while. He did Fox and the Hound, he did the Care Bears movie, he did a few different Rankin and Bass specials where he played Santa. So there were people who were more well-known who did some voice acting, but again, it just wasn't really a thing. So what was the first film to really utilize a star-studded cast? Weirdly enough, from my research, it looks like it was Oliver and Company. Yeah, Oliver and Company. Like, they actively advertised Billy Joel and Bette Midler, and there were plenty of other famous people from the time who were in the film. But notoriously, Oliver and Company didn't do so well. So this wasn't really a model that was followed for the next few Disney films. There are a couple people who are well known in The Rescuers Down Under and The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast, but nothing like Oliver and Company. And they certainly weren't being advertised as why you'd be interested in going to the film. So if you are familiar with animated film history and or Disney history, you might guess what changes this. Yes, it's Robin Williams as the genie in Aladdin. Robin Williams being in the film was a major part of Disney's advertising campaign, even though Robin Williams explicitly didn't want that to happen. The whole history of what happened between Disney and Robin Williams with Aladdin is actually really complicated and really interesting, and I do encourage you to check it out because it is honestly really it paints Robin Williams in a really good light. I'll just put it that way. But what's important is that Hollywood learned that if you advertise that there's a celebrity in your animated film, people will see it because they like that celebrity. So Disney, who's top dog right now, starts adding celebrities as side characters, primarily. You'll notice this is when Whoopi Goldberg, Danny DeVito, Jason Alexander, Eddie Murphy, those people start to get featured in Disney films. And right in the middle of all of this is when Toy Story comes out. And aside from the groundbreaking CGI, it also has a pretty star-studded cast, and it kicks ass. A few years later, DreamWorks enters the scene. And of their first 5 movies, I would say about 3 of them have what I'd consider star-studded casts. So as 2000 pop culture is emerging, this is the trend that we see. Your animated film needs to have celebrities in the voice cast. Above all else, it can look ugly, it can be bad, it can be stupid, but if people recognize the names, they're gonna show up long enough to give you their money. Not every animated film does this. Like, Brad Bird films have celebrities in them, but I don't remember them ever being advertised based off of that. I don't think I saw a single voice actor mentioned in a trailer for Big Hero 6, but for every Ratatouille or Big Hero 6, there is a Boss Baby or a Sing or an Angry Birds right around the corner. Hell, even when you cast people who aren't A-list celebrities in your animated films, now they become them. Remember when only theater kids knew who Idina Menzel and Josh Gad were? Now they're household names. And that's not to say that voice actors should live in anonymity. I love voice actors. That is a picture of me with Liam O'Brien over in the corner, after all. They deserve credit for their roles, and part of that involves the ability to become more famous. And I'm also not bashing celebrities doing voice acting. I love a lot of celebrity performances in animated films. Movies like Hoodwinked and Kung Fu Panda and Prince of Egypt are all incredible, and part of why they are so incredible is their star-studded casts. But at the same time, I think about people like Tony Jay and Sterling Holloway, Ed Wynn and Eleanor Audley. None of them were the sort of people you advertised a movie around, but they all gave unforgettable performances. And imagine what it would be like if all of the voice actors who are currently working in video games and TV had the opportunity to be in these animated films. How cool would it be to see movies starring Maurice LaMarche and Phil Lamar and Laura Bailey and D. Bradley Baker? And yes, I understand why this is happening. Putting celebrities in your film is an investment to make sure that people come to see it. But at the same time, isn't voice acting the one time it shouldn't matter? Over the summer, I got to be in a couple radio plays. I was several British scientists, a Russian scientist, an 8-year-old little boy, a soldier, a 60-year-old woman, a gas station attendant from the Appalachian Mountains, a Brooklyn phone operator. And that is the magic of voice acting. Even compared to other forms of acting, none of this matters. You're only limited by your technique and your imagination. But if you need to ensure that the celebrities that you are paying good money for are recognizable so you can advertise them in the trailer, then isn't some of that magic lost?